And we're using that camera. Okay. Hi, welcome to segment 6, and we're talking about standing up to the extreme Muslim movement. And a really interesting example happened in Alberta, Canada. And you have to know the background of Alberta, Canada. It's always been very, when you say open to
They're fairly inclusive.
pretty much
up there.
anybody, yeah.
Canadians are pretty liberal.
And that's true just in general. They're
Right.
pretty liberal, yeah.
Right.
They're 55th, they're our 51st state.
Yeah.
It ticks them off too. Let me tell you, every time we vote on something, it affects them. Yeah, it doesn't make them happy. But Alberta has been known for being pretty open-minded about everything. And there's this school, Weber Academy. It's a private school, and they have one rule, and that rule is because they want it open to anybody, any religious background can go to this school. So the rule is there's no religion in school, period, to avoid arguments, to avoid all that kind of nonsense.
That's fair.
Go to church.
It's a very high academic expectation, and they want the students to focus on academics when they're here. Yes. That's all they should be doing.
And it has always worked. It has been a solid system. They've had Catholics, Protestants, Jews. They've had whatever, everybody for many, many years until
now.
Until now, and some Muslim students were enrolled and they wanted to be able to pray. And the school said, well, we don't do that here. Nobody does that here. So what are they doing? They're suing the school for, you remember what?
$26,000.
Well, no, I wasn't thinking about the money.
Well, discrimination.
They what?
Discrimination, right?
Yeah, they're suing them for discrimination. How can you sue the school for discrimination when you're treating them the same way as everybody else?
But I'm not particularly familiar with Canada's laws in terms of separation of church and state, so on and so forth. But like you just said, they're consistent. It's not like, I'm aware Muslims pray differently than the rest of us. Christians can just sit in silence to be honest, but it's a consistent thing. They're not allowing just one person, or they're not allowing anybody to pray. So the notion that they even got fined was just absurd.
And the thing I don't understand is it's a private school. When you go to a private school, they say, okay, here's the rules. You agree to, you basically said, I want to come to your school, so I agree to whatever it is you're saying I have to do. And that is, you don't get to pray 5 times a day if you're a Muslim. Sorry, that's not allowed here. So they signed up for that. And they went out of their way to sign up for that.
You're right. But is this not indicative of exactly the way these radicalized Muslims deal with it? They worm their way into something and then they try and change it. Mm-hmm. They take the basic look what's happening in this country. I saw on Facebook today, somebody put up, we talked about this earlier, they put up a picture of the Twin Towers with the airplanes going through, and it said, when did we go from this? How many 19? How many Muslims were there in those things?
Something, yeah.
It's like 19 all told, I think, involved in that. How did we go from that to being afraid we're going to offend them?
Right. At the time, I think there were some Muslims in America who were afraid that they were going to be retaliated against personally. And I don't think that happened. I think we were generally pretty careful.
There were some very isolated incidents.
Yeah, but generally Americans were very careful to say, okay, well, those people were from the Middle East and they were radicalized, and, the people who live here, seem to want to live in peace with us. And there wasn't a lot of retaliation against them. But yeah, as far as, like the next week, George Bush is like, we're going to bomb Iraq. We're out of here.
I can tell you exactly what happened. We lost our cojones. And you want to know what? France grew some. France deported 40 Islamic jihadists before we did.
I find this offensive that surrender monkeys would actually do that. How, you know what? This is a statement to how bad this president is.
Yeah.
When the president of the United States gets bettered by the French in an act of aggression, that's unfathomable.
It absolutely is. When I first saw this headline, I I had to rub my eyes. I was like, surely I'm not seeing correctly.
I thought it was Vladimir Putin had taken over Paris.
Right.
I mean,
it does. Sounds like something he would do.
It did. And there's been a couple other countries too. Was it New Zealand or Australia that said, if you don't want to come in here and live like the way we do, don't come here?
Well, yeah, for years they've accommodated the Muslims, and finally they're starting to come around and say, you know what, we've had enough. So yeah, I'm glad that the Australians are finally coming around too. But yeah, they're looking at what these imams are saying, and if they are preaching hatred and jihad, they're deporting them. Just you're out of here. That's
it. France's interior minister, basically came out and just said, literally, any foreign preacher of hate will be deported, period.
Yeah, and they're also looking at the mosques, and if they're preaching hate in the mosque, they're just going to shut down the mosque.
Do you think we'll do that here?
No.
Definitely not.
No. They'll shut down churches before they even
the only thing that's
going to
happen here is those challenges like they did out in Arizona with the bikers versus the mosque, you know.
But you know what disturbs me about this is I have friends who are Muslim. They're as American as I am. The thing that worries me is there's going to be a big backlash eventually about this whole thing. And you know, I don't want to see nice people get caught in the crossfire on this. Maybe literally.
Many people can't differentiate between the two, the extremists and the regular.
Sure.
Well, I mean, what'll happen is, I hate the thought of this. I mean, a mosque is going to be the center of attention. It's very clear it's full of Muslims, and most of those people are innocent, just good people. They own cigar stores and martial arts studios.
Right. I mean, they're
stuff.
Just going about their business, and they're worshiping in the way that they see fit, and as long as that's all they're doing, that's fine.
The problem is, will the common man discern it? If the government doesn't take control of solving the problem, eventually, the common man will.
Well, the interesting thing is, though, it would have to be the secular people, the secular conservatives, because I think the Christians are going to be so cowed in short order here that they're not going to have any power, any collective confidence or power to do anything. But yeah, I think the South will rise again.
as bad as that saying is, I mean, we kind of talked about this. I don't know if we talked about this on air or off air in segment 6 last week, but basically, I was going to mention something when we had one of the callers in the phone, but there's been a slippery slope in terms of court rulings, and and it's basically just a ticking time bomb until something happens. And I'm not intentionally trying to go out there and provoke anything, but if you look at the track record of history, we're on the same track. It's just a matter of time.
Well, and I mean, my observation, I really truly believe it. There's only two options here. Well, there's three. You could totally lose the country and everyone dies. But the only two viable options is the government takes control, as apparently France has started to do. The government takes control. We know the FBI's infiltrated these things. They know who's who. That is an organized way of dealing with it.
Yes.
If they start bombing little league games and stuff, blood. I mean, they talked about concealed carry, blood will run the streets. That's when you're going to see blood running in the streets. And unfortunately, the common guy isn't going to discern between the friendly guy on the corner who happens to be a Muslim and an extremist. They're going to start taking out mosques and stuff.
The other problem is people like Sikhs who, in many cases, look like Muslims, are mistaken for Muslims, and they're actually very peaceful.
The Indian, sure,
Sikhs are actually very, very peaceful.
Exactly. So, we have a lackluster president who is counterproductive. You can't even say he's bad at it. He's actually counterproductive. And but we got an election coming up.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. And I got to say this before we end it. This, even coming out of my mouth, I get a fur ball. I want to cough. But I got to say that Trump.
Oh God.
Well, I agree.
Love him or hate him.
Yeah,
I agree. The thought that I would ever vote for Donald Trump, he's such a blowhard. But of every single person that's in the arena, he just came right out and said what was a fact. He came out true. Yep. And the papers have tried to cut him down, and they've tried to twist it like a snake with his head cut off. And the fact is, he's dead right. And I hate that it's Donald Trump.
And I love the fact that everything they've done to him, all these different TV channels have cut him off and marketing deals and all these different, distribution deals. And he's like, I don't care. I'm speaking the truth and I'm not going to back down. And I love it.
And it gives him more publicity too.
It's what?
It gives him more publicity.
Yeah.
And then, the getting cut off. Yeah, exactly.
No, we've got some candidates. Rubio, I like him. There's a number of guys that I like. And I hope they rise to the occasion on this. It would be a great irony if after all of this over the years, Donald Trump ended up becoming the president of the United States.
Yeah.
But
only in America.
He may be what we need, though.
Well, Ronald Reagan is quoted with saying, this is a loose quote because I don't remember the whole thing, but it stuck with me. I saw this a few days ago. Democracy is never more than a generation away from falling. Correct. It's not it's not handed down through your blood. It's your obligation to protect it and ensure its livelihood for the next generation.
You're our hope there, Brian.
Was it Jefferson? The Tree of Liberty?
Oh yeah.
From time to time needs to be refreshed by the blood of
patriots. Yeah.
Patriots and
tyrants.
Tyrants, yeah.
Yeah.
Patriots and tyrants.
What can I tell you? I don't remember. All right. Well, anyway, the bottom line for segment 6 is maybe there's hope on the horizon after all, because there are some countries that are finally getting fed up. God knows we're not yet, apparently, at least aren't our government. But the one thing we got going for us, we are heavily armed and well trained.
So, and 2016 is coming.
And 2016 is coming. So that's our hope. We hope that the government takes over and does what it needs to be done. But if not, I'm telling you, people are going to take to the streets. That's what will happen. Good?
Very good.
All right. That's segment 6. And we'll be back next week with a title that we have yet to figure out.